when we say consciousness, always refer brain. So now, clear example. My body getting older and older, but my mind younger and younger. So definitely, there is, I say, mind is something quite independent. So therefore, now it is really worthwhile, useful, more investigate about mind, consciousness. So, my own case, body getting older and obviously,
And my knees are quite wobbly.
But it seems to myself, my consciousness thinking, I think more sharper, more deeper experience. So obviously, body and mind to separate. Now when we think about mind, then it is quite complicated. Mind not produced by brain, but its own entity. So now this bring a subject. Today's my mind, continuation of yesterday's mind. So at the sort of what's the cause of conception, I think the very concept ningsum jar sa tsikora rida ko kuta dubo sam remedugo.
So in the Buddhist understanding, the very term that is used for conception says beyond the simple meeting of physiological factors coming together.
Garanzo the shung nalo le ya any pame kuta dube kadu le ya persi
So for example, like in the texts and the Buddhist texts, when it describes the sort of the moment of the consciousness entering this composite, there is a whole description about how the environment within which that consciousness is present.
nghe tu ning su jamo thagwe and chibadigi shebe gyundi ta gyungamaji mashan jayamorba.
So in that sense, that the continuity of the first moment of consciousness of the newly born child or a conceived child has to be traced prior to that stage.
But tashen go we request or jre any nghe tu ning sum jane any te any pame kujan duba tesam yina any kujan du nego samololya chiba chagu.
So the one of the sort of the style of the reasoning is really more like a process of elimination. So if simply it is a physiological or physical process, then the coming together of the two factors, creating the composite, should always give rise to a birth of a child, conception. But that's not necessarily the case.
Di kujan duba samoyinwe delaya number sheba sayajigi pigi kujan duba ujalaya shukbu yina socha mashuna kujan duba samremado
So the conception requires more than coming together physical factors. And that third factor is really the presence of the continuity of consciousness.
So now, it is really worthwhile to investigate what is consciousness. That motivation nale yorela special nalende nangbe shungda thapar nalende shung nalola ta sashurisha.
So although this kind of discussion is found in non-Buddhist classical Indian philosophical writings as well, but we find in the Buddhist Nalanda master's treatises much more extensive inquiry into this whole question of what is the nature of consciousness and what is the origin of consciousness of this particular life.
Ta ngazo kyawa nga shisha yona, ane lubu dene kyawa nga me kombati kyawa chimala mikse pene yana kemiduwa.
So, for example, if we were to try to account for the important features of present life purely based on our body, based on physiology, then many of the sort of the features of human characteristic, the individual characteristics, it's quite difficult to trace it to an earlier instance of body, just purely on a material basis.
파마시 보고 참았다고지 그 시베 때문에 맨자 내용도가.
So even twins who are born to exactly the same parents, we can see differences in their personalities and characteristics.
자사가 아주 류부 딜레 수도치 남버 쉐바사야지 예바지 사무도 스타나 파지사버리.
So if we were to think along these lines, to really account for the human existence and human nature and human characteristics, it seems to suggest quite clearly that we need to look beyond material explanation, physical explanation.
디 세리기 쉐바디 레벨에 깨버려서 라고 저는 가고 싶어요.
So, for example, the nature of consciousness, at the heart of it is this luminous nature or the clarity. So this clear awareness or luminous nature, if one were to argue that this is a product of brain or a function of brain, that would be quite hard to accept.
What is your sort of distinction, brain and consciousness? Do you have some idea? Consciousness and brain.
Well, Your Holiness, this is an important topic that, as you know, we've talked about for years. And one of the things that you've pointed out, for example, in your book, The Universe in a Single Atom, that the scientific belief, it's really a belief, that the mind is the same as the brain is a belief. It is not a fact. And so this is something I think that is at the heart of one of the insights that we have gleaned from our dialogues with you, Your Holiness, and is still, we call this the hard problem in neuroscience. That is how experience may arise from the brain. And in my view, we have not made any progress in really understanding that over the last 100 years.
가서
단다 체리랑 돈에 남시 드시게 단다부터 그게
그래.
체리랑 돈에 남시 그거랑신 드시게 단다 세부 텐토 요 말에서 레벨로 게이링 걸 제베체베네.
Obviously, physical and brain is part of physical. Getting older, more white hair, and more
Wrinkles.
Oh. But consciousness, which depend on our brain, but consciousness itself more or less independent, separate. So, my own experience, now getting older, that means physical level. Knowledge about, now, for example, you know about altruism or about understanding shunyata. You see, year by year, or even month by month, understanding becoming deeper and